I think most of you know me. I think I was probably, if you're new to the organization, you probably interviewed with me sometime before you got into the position. And obviously we have, I think, 43 new staff, and we probably have some number of mentors in here as well. And some of them are doubled up, so it's close to 40 mentors, and we have a number of administrators in the room as well. So say welcome to everybody to our first induction program of the year. I just want to take a few brief moments and just give you a broad overview of the organization before I turn it over to Donna Gaffney for more information about the induction. I just want to use this opportunity just to reinforce that if you're here, okay, that tells me something about not just you as a professional, but you as a person as well. Because one of the things as an organization that we look for in trying to secure employees is not people just of high content, but also of high character. And that's important. I mean, obviously we assume that you have the content skills. We assume if you're here, you're already a certified, qualified teacher or speech therapist or whatever position you may be, guidance counselor, remedial teacher. And we know we have a whole array of positions in here. But also, you know, not just the skill level that you bring to the table, we're also looking at what you bring to the table as a person. Because this business is about kids. All right? So if we're hiring personnel to come work with children, we have to make sure that we have quality people of high character who understand things like integrity and respect and how you treat people. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to model for children. That's so far more important than any of the content. And I can challenge you by asking, if you look back to the teacher who made an impact on your life, think back to your high school days, your elementary days, and think of who your favorite teacher was that impacted you, it's probably not the teacher who taught you the periodic table of chemicals, or a teacher who taught you the different battles of Gettysburg or the Civil War. It's probably a teacher who made a personal investment in you. Right? That's probably a teacher you have in mind right now as a person who influenced your life. So little to do with the content, and more importantly to do with the investment and the relationship that you had. So what we're really looking for when we hire people are people who have the ability to establish positive relationships with children. Okay, that's first and foremost. And the fact that you're here tells us we believe you are a person of high character. And by the way, you're probably a very good teacher too. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So I want to say welcome to all our new employees. And I think this is a very good organization. I think you'll find it's a changing organization and a growing organization. We're adding personnel in large numbers, and not just because of retirements and people leaving, but rather because we are growing. We're getting more and more services and more opportunities to provide services in the county. And that's what we want to do, because we believe we can affect change in our community by working with kids. So the more districts use us, the more non-public schools use us, the more ability we have to influence the lives of children. Okay? And I think that's a good thing, and you are now part of that process. So quickly, let me just go through some brief organizational pictures to make sure we're all on the same page, and then we'll turn this over. Okay, you met me, Dr. Landis. Dr. Landis is our Assistant Executive Director. He and I work together as a team. Our offices are always open. We know most people do not take us up on that offer, but don't be afraid to come to the 5th floor. And we don't bite, we don't hurt people. So do come when you're in the building. I know most of the time you're in the field. Stop in and say hello. That's how we get to know you. We try to get out when we can. Difficult to do with the paperwork and the bureaucracies. Please feel free to come in and visit us anytime you're in the office, really. Okay, so our mission statement, I always start with our mission. Very clear. We want to be a dynamic, visionary leadership, effective, efficient services for our school districts, our schools, and our students. Okay, I think it's a pretty general mission statement. But a little bit about intermediate units, just so you know the scope of the organization we're working for. There are 29 of us in the state. General Assembly created us in 1970. We're having to be number 23, and we happen to have 22 school districts. Okay, so that we serve. In addition to that, we provide services to 150 non-public schools. There are more non-public schools in the county, but those are 150 that we're serving. 4 career technical centers, and of course we work very closely with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. We do have a board that we report to. 1 board member from each of the school districts. Okay, so we meet them on a monthly basis. Just like a school district, they set the policy and the guidelines for how we operate. And most of our funding from the intermediate units, we get funds from the federal government, funds from the state government, and funds from our school districts. unlike a school district, we are not a taxing authority. Right? So for our revenue sources, we have to find revenue. We don't get revenue handed to us by simply issuing taxes. So we're dependent upon quality of services. We work with the federal government to get competitive grants, the state government to get grants, school districts fee for services, for we sell services to school districts and to non-public schools primarily. Okay, that's important to know, because people are not going to buy our services if we don't deliver quality programs for kids. And I always tell people, they're not going to buy services based on what I do, they're going to buy services based on what you do. I don't get to work with the principals and the teachers and the parents, so they're going to form an opinion, they being the public, are going to form an opinion about the organization based on what you do, not based on what the administration does. Because you're on the first line, you're the folks in the schools, okay, and the schools are going to form an opinion about us based on you. That's where it's important, that's why we talk about character over and over and over, because at the end of the day, we're a customer service organization, and you are the first provider of the service. Not just the kids, but the parents, the teachers, the principals. And they're the folks who are going to make the decisions of whether or not people are going to come to the community for support, for services. So remember that when you're out there. Essentially, you are an ambassador for the organization, and our fate depends on your ability to deliver positive customer service to children. We're a $150 million budget approximately, and we're pushing 500 employees and plus another 120 contractors. Okay, that number 500 is larger, substantially larger than where we were just a year ago. So again, a growing organization. I think I hit this point over and over. Our number one priority, and if you can take our mission statement and whittle it down to 3 words, we invest in children. Okay, that's what we do, that's what we're about. So that children have to be the first and foremost in our decision-making process. We'll take that investment in children, break it down into 3 subsections. We want to be the first choice for school districts and schools when seeking services. Again, for the first choice, that increases our ability to affect change in kids' lives. We also have to be cost-effective. Okay, we sell our services, so we have to make sure they're not just quality, but they're cost-efficient. People are not going to buy services that are overpriced, plain and simple. So we have to have two pieces of the equation. And then we want to be the regional hub for facilitation, provision, for stimulating, collaborative, and partnerships. We totally believe that this whole idea of changing communities and improving lives of children, we don't have a monopoly on that. Okay? We have to work with other organizations who have that same mission. So the more we can partner with organizations, the better it is when it's have changed in kids' lives. So we don't do this alone. We do it in partnership with any organization that has children at the center of their mission. The goals, those of you who were able to attend the opening day, seen these already. I know some of you were still in transition and did not see these, so it's worth going through them again. That way we're very clear on what we're trying to accomplish as an organization. First goal, obviously, is to improve student learning. One way we do that is through professional development. Professional development is one of the easier ways to get access to change. I use the number as 130,000 children in Montgomery County. We only have direct service to a fraction of those. So if we really are serious about changing the lives of 130,000 children, we also have to do it through professional development. We can't do it through direct service alone. It doesn't mean we ignore direct service, but we have to have a very good professional development entity. We want to make sure that we're cultivating best practices. We're always looking down the road for future trends and making sure that whatever we do is state-of-the-art in terms of our abilities to make changes in education. We make sure we work with school districts and public schools so we have a program of services to serve all students. Most of the students we serve do have children with disabilities or have challenging behaviors, okay, or challenging learning needs. Those typically the populations we're working for. Therefore, we make sure those programs, special education, remedial teaching, are as strong as can be. Early learning, a large portion of our organization is early intervention. Program for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Many in this room probably are employed to work with that population of children. It's not the only programs we have for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We also have added a Head Start program, and we hope to have a pre-K counts program. So we have a very strong commitment from our school districts and a strong push for investing in children early to get better outcomes down the road. So you'll see our organization look at 3, 4, and 5-year-olds as a priority. So as those children get to school, they're better prepared for success. Number 5, obviously we have to make sure we have strong fiscal policies in place. Again, managing the funds is not an easy task since we're not a taxing authority, so we have to be pretty prudent on how we spend our limited federal, state, and local dollars. Make sure we have good facilities. Obviously this building is a great start to that. Most of the kids are not in this building. There are very few kids in this building, so we have to make sure that wherever the kids are, those facilities are at our standards as well. We talk about relationships. We don't have a monopoly, so we have to work with any organization that has children as the center of their mission. We want to make sure we're working with them and building those partnerships. And then, of course, internally the organization, we want to make sure that we, as a staff, interact in a trustful, respectful, and transparent manner. Okay. And it starts with the administration, setting an example for that, and we try to carry that through all levels of the organization. That we, as a team, have a common mission and all work together in a trustful, respectful manner. Quickly, the organization is divided into 8 offices. You see Dr. Lennis and myself. I'm going to go through each of the 8 offices to make sure you, I believe almost everyone in this room are probably in the Office of Student Services. Maybe a few of you in other offices, but that's going to be the overwhelming majority of the staff. Stan Whistler is our Chief Financial Officer. He has the job of managing the $150 million. And unlike a school district where he doesn't have one budget, he has probably 90 budgets. Okay. Every program is a separate budget. So we have a large business office that has to make sure all those programs and all those funds are spent properly. And reporting to the federal government and the state government is extensive. Intermediate units are probably the most audited organization that exists because of the type of funds that we have and the number of budgets we have. And Stan runs a very clean office, and we rarely, if ever, get cited for improper budgeting. Jack, I think most of you met Jack at some point in the interview process. Jack's in the back of the room. Oversees the personnel, certification, benefits, recruitment. You probably can't get here without going through his office. Okay, so, and he, of course, he has to manage all the paperwork for those 450-some employees, and more than just that. Dr. Robinson in our student services. Dr. Robinson is in charge of all programs, most programs that are direct service for students in public schools and other programs. The direct services for non-public schools are in a different office. So special education, early intervention, alternative education, and Head Start all fall under Dr. Robinson. Donna Gaffney is the Director of Professional Learning, and you'll be hearing from her quite a bit today. And she oversees all the adult learning. So we talked about professional development, one of the key components of the organization. We train teachers, we train principals, we train superintendents, we train our own staff members. All that comes under Donna's jurisdiction. Dr. Voss, I believe, is in the back of the room, our Director of Non-Public Services. So oversees the educational programs for students enrolled in non-public schools. And those of you who are remedial teachers in here, you know that you're in Dr. Voss's office. Gal Kennedy oversees the technology, both the internal technology to make sure that you have access to the internet and appropriate services. We also manage these services in school districts as well. So both an internal and external function for technology. And so obviously we make sure the kids have access to the internet and other materials that help their instruction. Tina Valeto works with community relations and government relations. Her primary job is to build those partnerships that we talked about with other organizations, and also to be our voice in Harrisburg with legislators as education policy changes. Ann Herman Hinkson is the director of our patent office. For those of you who are new to the organization, patent is a professional development wing of the Pennsylvania Department of Education. specifically focusing on special education issues. There are 3 of them in the state, one in Pittsburgh, one in Harrisburg, and we're a host to one in the east, not based in this building, but based down the road. So they're essentially, they provide technical assistance for the Commonwealth in the area of special education, and we're fortunate that they are part of our MCIU family. And last slide, it's worth noting that we are a new provider of Head Start. So we were successful in going after and achieving a 5-year grant to serve 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds from economically disadvantaged homes. So that has added to our organization tremendously. And so we will work with children from those less than desirable conditions and give them a quality education. So like early intervention, they would be able to get a good learning opportunity prior to ending kindergarten. So it's a new program for us. I believe the doors just opened for the first time on Wednesday this week. So that's how new it is. And it's an exciting, it's 400-some children that we are now a provider for. All part of our mission is to change communities by improving the lives of children. So I think that wraps up my portion. And again, I'll say welcome you here. We're very pleased that you're here and think that you're a great addition to the MCIU team and look forward to hearing great things about what you do for kids out there. So with that, I think I'll turn this over to Donna. So good luck to you.
Welcome to the MCIU Induction Program. This is our kickoff meeting. It's very nice to see you. It's nice to put faces with names. Very happy that you're here. We're going to start with a very brief program overview because for some of you, especially our mentors in the room, induction may look a little different this year than it has in the past, and that's a good thing. You may not be aware of this, but unlike school districts, where you tend to put new teachers, or teachers new to the district through an induction program, at the intermediate unit in this room alone, we have 13 different roles that people have been hired for. So it became really clear to the leadership team that we could not continue induction as we had in the past. We needed to do a little bit more to try and differentiate it for you, to try and make it more meaningful and relevant to the work that you're doing, to streamline things, because our work is very time-consuming and we work very hard and we don't want induction to be a burden. We want it to be something that is a support and helps you. And we also wanted to do it in a very collaborative and shared way. So if you take a look at the year at a glance that you see up there, it's a little hard to read, but the good news is all of these documents are available to you on SharePoint, which Caitlin will tell you that later. The bottom line is that we have a tiered system of induction to offer you this year. That tiered system includes the first IU organization-wide meeting, which you're at now. We'll also have one in January and one at the end of the year. Your mentors will be invited back at the end of the year to celebrate your successes. You're going to have some office level meetings in between. You'll have 2 office level meetings in which, based on the needs in student services or non-pub or professional learning, you'll get something a little bit more tailored to your job-specific role, specific needs. In addition to that, you're going to be working with your mentors, and a lot of them are here with you, and we thank them for coming. In terms of working with your mentors, it's really going to be a collaborative partnership. We'll talk a little bit more later about how you'll interact with one another, what you'll focus your time on. And then last but not least, you're going to have an opportunity to do some observations. You may observe your mentor, you may observe someone else in a similar role. You may want to learn something outside of your role in terms of learning more about an auxiliary service or related service, and that may be where you choose to go and spend your time. Either way, we hope that this new model, which satisfies our 7.5 hours of induction as required by your contract, provides you with not only what you need to learn and grow, but also a nice support system, as Dr. George said, to make you a part of the MCIU family. So we'll talk a little bit more about bits and pieces of that, but every induction program has to have some core components, and there's some things that we're required to do by the Department of Education for induction. And one of them is to kind of talk about Act 48 and your professional responsibilities around Act 48. So we're going to have some fun with it, okay? All right, who knows how to sign? Who knows our alphabet and sign language? Anybody? All right, okay, for those of you that don't, okay, this is A. Everybody make an A. All right, this is B. book. Act 48, let's see what you know about it. Educators must do the following every 5 years in order to remain in compliance with Act 48. Pick one, show of hands, A, B, C, or D. The answer is D. Okay? Pat yourself on the back if you got it right. This is what we need to do to comply with Act 48. You must earn 6 collegiate credits or 6 PDE approved CPE or 180 continuing education hours. It's any combination thereof. You can have any mix of it. Okay? For your own information, each credit, collegiate or CPE, is worth 30 continuing education hours. So therefore, 3 times 3, take a 3-credit course, you got 90 hours. You're on your way. Okay? And then they must be related to your certification type or area of assignment. So you can't go take something in the area of science if you're certificated in the area of English. PD wants to make sure that the intent of Act 48, which is to continue your professional growth and education in your certification area, is carried out. Okay? Now, if you have a very good argument for that, because maybe you're changing rules, and that's a different story, but we try and keep it in line. Next one. A, B, or C, when does the Act 48 5-year period begin for those of you who were issued certificates after July 1, 2000? And I know, based on who was hired and your experience, some of you may have certificates prior to that, but for those issued after July 1, what do you think? A, B, or C? It's B. It's B. Okay? The 5-year period begins the effective date of the issuance of the initial certificate. Okay? And what that means is that you need to earn those Act 48 hours every 5 years. For those of you that are in a window now, 2010 was the last year, but there's a little caveat. Who remembers the Act 48 moratorium that we had? All right? That moratorium didn't mean Act 48 went away. It just meant that they gave you a little waiver there of an extra 2 years to earn your hours. So technically, that was a one-time thing, so the current window is a 7-year window. So if you have your certificate prior to then, right now you're in the window of 2010 to 2017, in case you're curious. Next question. What's the best way for a certificated employee to check on his or her Act 48 balance? Oh, another mix. I got some. I got all of them. Look at that. All right. Okay. Jack, don't worry. Nobody said A. Don't worry about it. All right. The correct answer is B. It's B because here's what I need you to understand. My learning plan is just an internal management system. It's what the IU chose to purchase organizationally to manage activities. That's not where all your records will be. All your records are on the PERM system. And the PERM system is very easy to go to. You just follow that link and put in your PPID number right here. And everybody knows their PPID number by heart, right? Okay, if not, put it in your cell phone as a contact, okay? Don't hit enter, hit go. Otherwise you won't go anywhere. All right? And there you go. You can see any number that you want. It will tell you what the window is, how many hours have been accumulated, and how many remain. Okay? That is the official state record. That's where you need to go to be absolutely sure you know what's going on. Okay? Next question. What if something I completed isn't there? I go into the official record system and it's not there. What do I do? What do you think? Now we're calling HR, right? Hey? No? What are we doing? My learning plan. Contact the provider. Yes. Which could be here. Okay? But very often it's not. Very often it's not. So here's what you need to understand. There are Pennsylvania providers that are approved by PDE. They upload directly to the Department of Education, to that record system I just showed you. Out of state can be done, but it has to be done by hand. You have to contact and work with the Department of Education. If it's a non-provider, okay, so if you just go to a workshop, go somewhere, and they're not an approved PDE provider, they obviously can't report on your behalf. And what we want you to understand is that we won't be doing that. So we provide Act 48 for you through your in-service days. That all gets reported. The reality of it is that those hours, if you go to them, meet or exceed what you need for Act 48. If you take something outside, and they are a provider, it will be reported for you. So you'll get all those hours as well. If it's not an approved provider, okay, according to the guidelines, we don't have to report it on your behalf. And quite honestly, with the number of employees we have and the growing demand that we have, we won't be doing that moving forward. So keep that in mind, okay? Take advantage of the IU offerings of professional development, pay attention if it's a provider, and you'll be good to go, okay? The only exception to that will be if we ask you to take something that is not from a provider. So for example, our new state regulations require some mandated training, things that are required to keep your certification. You'll hear about mandated reporter, you'll hear about suicide prevention and awareness, things that are required for different certifications at different levels. If we say to you, you must do this as part of the mandated thing, then we will report, okay? So don't worry about that. Fast facts. So here's the thing, keep your information updated, make sure that your records are accurate in case you need to be contacted. No PPID, no credit. I would pretty much tell you if you're going somewhere and you haven't provided your PPID number, don't presume you're going to get credit, okay? That is the key to getting credit. Follow procedures. Oh, I've heard a lot of people very surprised to find out that they took a graduate course and it didn't get reported. That's because colleges and universities are in the same boat. They're not necessarily, they're approved providers, but they can't handle the demand that could come upon them if they would report every single course every student took. So a lot of colleges and universities have guidelines and procedures. You probably have to request in writing that they report for you, and they will probably cap how much they report for you. So keep that in mind if you're working on your on any graduate credits. And make sure that you check that PDE website regularly so that you know where you stand, what your status is. And Act 48 reporting is not instantaneous. It takes time, so you need to wait, okay? You need to wait at least 30 days before you look for the record because that's what the guidelines allow for. Now, My Learning Plan. As I said, My Learning Plan is the platform the IU uses to manage your records. So you will all be given, if you don't have it already, a My Learning Plan username or password. To get them started, we follow the same format so that we can help people get started. It's usually your first initial, last name, followed by 23. That's an example right there. You are to go to your point of contact in each of your offices first, okay? So if you are from Student Services, touch base with Edwina. If you're in non-pub, talk to Carolyn. If you're in the TAC or Office of Professional Learning, talk to Lois Winton. Go to your office first. They can help you make sure that your account's been set up. You will get Act 48 for your induction activities, but we won't report them until the end of the year. We'll report them as a bundle. So you'll get 7.5 hours for induction at the end of the year. That helps us because it's just one reporting in one upload. And then make sure you go into your profile, especially those of you who have transferred from another entity, because there'll be some combining of records there. You'll want to make sure that you're not using your old My Learning Plan account if you came from a district to try and do things here. It causes a little confusion. So just be aware of that. And then, of course, if you have any questions and they can't be answered immediately by your mentor at your office level, you can come see us in the Office of Professional Learning, and we will do our best to help you out. Okay? So I hope that wasn't too painful. When it comes to Act 48 and those kind of things, we want to make sure that you have a level of awareness and that you know what to do. It's a part of your professional responsibility. It's your certificate. But we are here to help you. We are here to answer any questions. So always feel free to ask. All right. With that said, do you have any questions? Anything I didn't answer about Act 48? Yes?
My question is this. When we take a course here at the IU, in the past I understood that my PPID number was in the system. But if it's, do I need to write it all the time or just?
No. If it's our in-service, It's in the system. It's our reporting in our own My Learning Plan record system. Yes, good question, Lily. Thank you for asking. Any other?
Good evening, afternoon, evening, thank you for evening. How's everybody?
Good.
Enthralled. Just wait, mandated reporter. This is exciting stuff. Really happy you guys could be here, echoing Dr. George and Donna's statements earlier. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that are coming up that you'll be getting communication for, and then for the mentors in the room, this is also helpful for you too, because these are things that are sort of coming down for us. Mandated reporter, who's heard of it? That is good. Who has taken the training? Hey, that's really good. Okay, this is good. This is starting off well. So just as a refresher, the Child Protective Services Law that was established requires mandated reporter training. So all our MCIU staff are required to take that. We have researched different avenues for that and taken a lot of time to figure out what would be the most efficient and comprehensive for you for that. The deadline for that is January 1st, 2018. Don't need you to wait till December 2017, so we're going to get that out really quickly over the next couple weeks, truthfully. You'll be receiving information about that, how to get the training and the process to do that. University of Pittsburgh, is anyone taking the training through University of Pittsburgh? Okay, good. A couple of hands here. So University of Pittsburgh is offering a training that is PDE approved and also approved for Act 48 credit. So it's a really great solution to the needs of the training that we have for the organization. So you will be receiving communication, I would say probably in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, getting the nod from Jennifer, to take you through this and how do you do the training and what do you do afterwards. You take the training. The good thing is you can sort of start and stop as you go. I know all of us try to find a 3-hour block of time without interruptions. Tell me if you know how to do that, because I have not mastered that myself. So this is really great. We've had people take it. We've had some internal staff members get it early on when it was introduced, and it seems like it's working really well for our staff. So again, eligible for both Act 48 credit and the Act 31 requirements. Who knows about Act 31? Right. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to tell you about Act 31. Act 31 is for licensed professionals. So our occupational therapists, our physical therapists, our nurses, our psychologists. I see them around. This goes along with mandated reporter training, but it's a little bit of a different timetable. So it's really important if you or the mentors or any of your colleagues, I'm sure all this information has come out, but it's just really helpful to be aware of. This is the schedule of when that training piece has to be completed. I had just mentioned January 1st, 2018, but this Act 31 brings in a different timetable for people who hold professional licenses. Okay, so we've had a few come up already, and I was looking earlier, so we have our psychologists out, and yay, psychologists.
That applies to us unless you're licensed privately.
Great, it doesn't apply to you unless you're licensed privately. Thanks, Melinda. So then, next up after that, I know we have our speech people next July, I believe. Yes, okay. So that's Act 31. It's basically just a sort of side note to the mandated reporter with a different timeline, okay? The last piece of the mandated reporter training is the local piece. So that would be our local child abuse policy here at MCIU. So that was actually just put up on SharePoint. We had a couple new policies put up this afternoon on SharePoint, and so that is going to come out as well in the information that we will be delivering through a recorded PowerPoint. And that will be out again probably by the end of the month. So any questions you have or any uncertainty that you have, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. It should be pretty self-explanatory. As Donna just mentioned in the Act 48 My Learning Plan information, this is a requirement that we're asking of you. So because of that, we will be uploading those Act 48 hours to PDE on your behalf. So this will all be on the email, but you're going to send the certificate, and we will report those hours on a quarterly basis. Okay. Any questions about mandated reporter training? Yes.
So, if we completed it and have our certificates of completion, can we forward that along?
Yes, yes, you can do that. So the email will be coming out in a couple weeks, and so that process will be deep. Jeff?
No, just that Sandy Colelli, who's the administrative assistant in our office, is going to be charged with the collection of all of that. So if you want to send it to her attention, she'll be able to handle that. We will be accepting other trainings. The key is they need to be at least, somewhat approved by the PDE. So, and we've actually lengthened that list a good deal. So if you have actually taken that. The one great thing about University of Pittsburgh is it's free. So a lot of the places are actually selling the training, but University of Pittsburgh has done a great job with theirs, and they made it free for everybody. It's super.
Thank you. All right. Professional code of conduct. Who's aware of the professional code of conduct? Whoa. Okay. Good. Well, now you will be aware, so we'll walk through this. We're really going to focus in on section 4 here, the practices, and really just the expectation that is upon you as a professional. Not just a professional of MCIU, but a professional through the Commonwealth, through PDE. You hold that certificate, and with that certificate comes code of conduct that you're expected to uphold. So we're going to walk through those. Any questions you have or whatever, feel free to yell out. So we'll just review some of this briefly for you, that you're required to abide by the professional school code. I'm sure that you've all read that front to back, so that should not be an issue for you. It is, you're able to look that up online though if you forget any part of that. Then you have making sure that you are prepared. What Donna was just talking to you about is your professional responsibility to make sure that you're getting your Act 48 hours, that all of those things, that your certificate is active and valid, and I will go through that in a little bit more depth with the inductees in a little bit. But that is your responsibility to make sure that you are appropriately certified for the position. Maintaining a high level of competence in your position, that comes from a multitude of things. It comes from participating in service, learning the new techniques, learning the new research, listening, but not just physically sitting in a chair and like zoning out for 3 hours. Really sort of taking in and making sure that you are picking up on all of that information or asking the right questions or understanding that you're able to turn around and deliver the service that's expected of you. Consistent, equitable treatment of students, educators, and parents, a respect factor here, treating people fairly in a respectful manner and making sure that that's equitable across the field. I know we have all run into certain challenges, whether they are colleagues, peers, students perhaps, but again, it's part of that code of conduct that we really treat everyone to the highest level that we possibly can. Professional educators shall accept the value of diversity in educational practice. I'm sure you guys have got like differentiation, that's new, but that was a joke. Differentiation. Oh my God, all right. Come on, people. Hey, I've been here too, all right? I'm fun. Sometimes. So yeah, I'll just move on from there then. So professional educators shall impart the principles of good citizenship and societal responsibility. I really think that has to come from inside. I don't know that that's something we would be able to teach you or should have to teach you, because I think when you all decided at whatever point in your lives and careers you wanted to be an educator, you wanted to work with students, or you wanted to work with adults who work with students, whatever it is, that's something that comes within, and you're here because you have that. That's our really super interview process that we have, that you all got through with flying colors. So that, I'm sure, is not an issue. Acceptable and professional language and communication skills. We like to think that we do this all the time. It would be shocking to you that is not always the case. So it's something that's really good to be refreshed on. You know, sometimes we can get a little too comfortable, a little too casual. So I know it happens to me. I'm sure some of you have seen it maybe. So it's really good to sort of just step back and remember what is our responsibility as an educator, but more what's our responsibility as a member of MCIU, as an ambassador to this organization, as Dr. George mentioned, and sort of portrayal that you have of MCIU outwardly, whether it's to colleagues, to non-pub teachers, or anyone that you're interacting with. You really need to have that at the forefront. That professional communication and communication skills are huge. And if you sat through my new employee orientation and customer service presentation, you're probably well versed on that. So, proper communication. Professional educators should be open-minded, knowledgeable, and use appropriate judgment and communication. There's communication again when responding to the educational environment. Good news is that's why we have mentors, and that's why we have supervisors, and that's why we have HR departments, and that's why we have all these supports for you, so that you're not alone. Our environment here as an IU is very different. I know a lot of you have come from districts. Some of you are brand new to the profession. So just you have to keep remembering this will be something we'll be drilling into you. Even though you're in school, perhaps all by yourself, or there's one other IU person who may be there 2 days a week, you're not alone. You're not out there by yourself. You don't have to handle anything by yourself. Your supervisors are so responsive. I work with all of them very closely. Your mentors are here to help. Most often, this is not the first time they've been a mentor, so this is something they're used to, questions they're used to. Don't feel, oh my God, I should know this, I should know how to handle this, any of those things. Make sure you're reaching out for that support, because it is here for you. Jack and I, of course, are always here for anything we can help with. So make sure you're using all of those resources. It was a little bit of a tangent, but important. So the confidence, keeping information in confidence through the course of professional activity, it's like a major thing here. So, the IEPs you work with, student information, parent information, demographic information, each other's information, a little bit about confidentiality in HR, so that is a really major point that is an expectation of you, that it's something that you always have on the forefront. And exerting a reasonable effort to protect students from conditions which interfere with learning or are harmful to their health and safety. That's major. I think that's why we're all here. I think that's why we're all in this industry, so is to be able to make that change and help students. And that, of course, ties in with the mandated reporter training that we'll be having. So the 3 different employment categories under the Pennsylvania Department of Education, I don't know that these are really that big of a surprise, everyone, but we have the substitute employee, the TPE, or the temporary professional employee, and the professional employee. Substitute employee, right, it's a substitute employee. The temporary professional employee is any professional who has not achieved tenure yet in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to take you through tenure, because a lot of people think level 2 and tenure are the same, or they go together, and they don't. So that's a fun fact that will be coming up. But so your TPE, as it says here, has not attained tenure status, but are able to perform the duties and things like that. And then your professional employee, of course, those professionals who have attained tenure. Oh, it says that. Don't confuse tenure with level 2. I forgot I put that in there. That's great. So certification and licensing, that's through PDE. I had this whole really big plan of taking you through the PDE website. It's not so user-friendly, so I thought that this would be very helpful, but we just don't have the time to take you through PDE because it is so not user-friendly. However, the new format that they came out with, I do believe once I got used to it, is better. I think it's a little bit better. Are we in agreement? A little bit better? Okay. I try to be positive. That's a part of my job. So on the PDE website, you can find the CSPGs. Those are the rules and the guidelines of what CERT can teach what, and things that are changing, what you can add on, what you can't, all of those things. I want to say I'm sitting in training 4 times a year with PDE in terms of what's changed in CSPG guidelines. So they're definitely always there to adapt and change and try to catch up with everything that's going on in education. But those are on the website and always updated, so keep an eye. If you do have a question, this is also going to be a theme through what I'm talking about. If you do have a question, don't hesitate to reach out. Jack or myself can help you, or we know where to point you in the direction, because again, you really can get lost in that whole website, so don't hesitate. The different types of certification, I'm going to go through those as well. There's an instructional cert, education specialist cert, which will mostly cover the people in this room. And then we also have the supervisory, administrative, and other. Other could be like a vocational cert. I'm not sure if any of you have ever worked or been affiliated with a technical school, but those folk certs would be in those environments. Okay, so level 1, like I said, in this room, we looked at the participation here, and we're truly split down the middle between level 1s and level 2s. So level 2s, don't go away, just, hang, and then I'll get back to something that applies to you. So the level 1 cert, again, Donna mentioned during the Act 48 that you come out, your time starts for those Act 48 hours. So your level 1 is, the clock is to convert to your level 2. So the things that you need to do to convert to your level 2 are up here. You have 6 years to do that, and you have everything converts at the same time. So this is different for an ed specialist. Did I note that? I'm not sure that I did. Instructional, so if you have multiple instructional certs, when you are teaching on one of those certifications and you convert to a level 2, all of your certs convert at that point. So if you have elementary, early childhood, and special ed, I don't think that's a popular trio, it might be, and you are working on your special ed pre-K to 8 cert, or N to 12, whatever you're still under, and you convert to the level 2, then you have a level 2 early childhood, level 2 K to 6, or K to 4, whichever one you have. Life has gotten very complicated in our office. So that is actually different. Okay, so the instructional cert, so I did put that in there. So you need your 24 post-baccalaureate credits, the induction program, yay, so you're here. I'm sorry for those of you that have participated in the induction program already. That's the biggest question we get when we hire staff, but I already did and I know. But this will be helpful to you as a part of MCIU, we swear. So 6 of those 24 credits need to be in special education. That came out 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say that changed, somewhere around then. Designating those 6 need to be in special ed, which is really exciting for people in our world. And then you have to have the 3 years of satisfactory service, which is 6 semi-annual evaluations. And that simultaneous conversion, which I was just talking about, that's when all of your certs transition to a level 2 once you transition the first one. Any questions on converting level 1 instructional? Yeah, okay. Active versus valid certification. So this is where Act 48 comes into play a little bit. So the active, valid, invalid refers to the years of service on the instructional one. So you have the 6 years, like the slide just said. You have 6 years to convert it. If you do not convert within that time frame, again, there's a whole, you can put your cert on hold. I just had someone recently who said, well, I didn't know I could do that, and I had children in 2008, and I want to come back now, but it's now invalid. And so there's a lot more hoops that that person has to jump through now to be able to teach in the common law, as opposed to being able to call PDE. So when Donna said it's your professional responsibility, that perms all of those things. But if you ever have questions, again, don't hesitate to ask us, because I don't want you sitting ending up, in a place where like, I didn't know, and ask the questions. So that valid, invalid, you may not teach in a PA public school. So that's like a big one. So pay attention to that one. The active, inactive is when you've let your cert lapse. So you haven't met the Act 48 hours, you went somewhere and did something else and came back and you didn't maintain your hours. So it says you may not hold a teaching position. You may substitute for up to 90 days on an inactive cert. I can tell you when I ran substitutes at Chester County IU, we had a multitude of inactive certs because we always needed the subs. And that was their way of being able to work and get money, get their credits in line to get their cert reactive. So then they could apply for positions and actually hold a PA teaching position. You can be issued a Type 04. There's really 3 standard different types of emergency certs. They don't necessarily make sense to you. An 06 is a day-to-day. That's what we get someone who may have a bachelor's degree but is going into different classrooms every day. A Type 04 is someone to do a longer-term assignment over 20 consecutive days, but they're not properly certificated. So that's where this would come into play. Because if you have an inactive cert, you can still be in the classroom, but you have to be working towards activating your cert to do that. And then there's a Type 01, educational obligation. If that ever happens to you, we'll be aware of it and we'll be able to explain that to you. I'm not going to do that So that is no bearing on the validity of the cert. So active, inactive, valid, invalid are two totally separate things. Some people get confused and they'll say to me, oh, my cert's invalid. I'm like, oh, are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure it's inactive. It's more popular. So that's the difference between active and valid. Any questions on that? Okay. So tenure requirements. So we have level 1, level 2. You have 6 years, satisfactory evaluations, convert your cert. Tenure. A lot of things are parallel when it comes to tenure, but they're not the same. So people automatically assume, well, I have a level 2, I have tenure. Not true. This is the fun fact of the evening. So it requires 3 years of satisfactory service in Pennsylvania, continuous service in one district. So, me as a teacher, I come out of school and I have a teaching position here for 1 year, and then I move to Pittsburgh, and so then I go there for 1 year, and then whoops, I come back to Philly and I have another position. So I, at that point, assuming I'm a good teacher, I have 6 satisfactory semi-annual evaluations, I have converted to a level 2, that's great, but I don't have tenure, because tenure is continuous service in one district. So you have to be somewhere for district or IU for 3 years. So it sounds the same as a level 2, but the level 2 can happen in all different places. Tenure has to happen all in the same place to achieve tenure. If you were somewhere for 2.5 years and you leave to come here, yay, happy you did, but you have to start over. So your 3 years would start over, but you may obviously be converting to a level 2. Does that make sense? Was I making up that people get level 2 and tenure confused? Thank you for saying that. I didn't think so, because in my 9 years, I don't know, people, it's confusing. It's confusing to us as well. And that's public school service. So we may have someone who's taught 10 years in non-pub, or 8 years in, no really non-pub, charters are public. Then that does not count. So their clock would start here. TIMS. Who's familiar with TIMS? Teacher Management Information. That's good. That's really good. It's like 2 years ago now everybody raised their hand, so that's exciting. TIMS, Teacher Information Management System. It's where you put your information through to get your cert. It's where you convert to level 2. The link is here. Again, I was going to take you into the website. We really don't have time for that tonight. You're really sad about that. But the link is here. The information will be up on SharePoint that I am going to take you into. But any questions on TIMS? Jack mentioned Sandy Colelli. She's sort of our expert in that area. She will walk you through all of that. She takes all of our people from level 1 through level 2. But basically, it's your responsibility to go in and make sure the information is accurate. You go into the system, you put in everywhere that we've had service, and then they say you worked in Colonial and somewhere else, and then they get something through TIMS saying to verify satisfactory service and good moral character and all those fun little questions we answer. Again, your PPID is necessary to log in. Districts, IUs, we get that information. We do our part, and then the information comes back to you and says that you have successfully completed that over. Any questions on TIMS? Ken, yes.
I have a question.
Ken, please.
Okay, yes, and maybe this will apply. Yeah. What if you have tenure, say you were teaching in Jersey, you got tenure in Jersey, or Delaware, or Maryland, and you come to Pennsylvania, does that tenure come with you? Is there reciprocity?
Stop the presenter night? I mean...
No, I know.
Honestly, I have to look that up because I don't know that I've come
I was
across
sitting
that.
here thinking about that. Neither do I have it in Jersey, but
Anyone have any relatives that try to get tenure in PA?
I'm saying, I wonder if it has to do with reciprocity.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It depends on the state. That's what I'm saying. If the state has reciprocity, maybe it's good.
That's for certification they have.
For certification, yeah, but for tenure, that's a really good question.
If that ever comes up, tomorrow you will know the answer for it.
You will know the answer. You know what, when we actually start sending those HR weekly emails, some of you don't even know they exist yet, just wait. Because they come from me, so you know they're a party.
They're very good.
Maybe I'll answer that other. For those of you wondering, out-of-state tenure, or maybe I'll make Ken send it up. That actually is a really good question, and I will look that up, because I'm not sure.
such
Is that tri-state
mobility in
area?
this
Absolutely,
area. Sure.
specifically. We just had someone down from Connecticut as well, so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good, that's a good thought. Yes?
I know PDE is nice and slow.
No.
If you had to guess, how long do you think it would take to go through?
Level 1 to level 2?
Yeah.
Oh, not terribly long. It's not months. What?
I did it
When?
in,
Recently?
September, late September, early October of last year.
Of 14. Oh, I had heard that they had quicker timetable
I
because
saw
TIMS
it.
wasn't so new.
I got the email of approval, I think, in January.
Okay, interesting. And you completed your everything that May before?
Oh, everything was completed, it just had to,
I mean your 3 years
okay.
in May. You applied in September, it still took you 3 months.
It
That's not bad.
took them a couple of months.
Okay,
To
interesting.
send back the credentials.
So moral of this story is don't delay, right?
It does show you that you're in process though, so
It shows you're in process, it'll show you if there's something missing, it will keep sending reminder emails like to us, hey, verify them, you know, they're waiting in the system for you. So it really is on the other educational institutions too to be, you know, vigilant about that, to get that going. Sure.
It was quick to add, for me to add a certificate, but
Okay.
it's been taking a while to go from
Level 1 to level 2, that's good, that's good to know.
Because people have to verify.
Right, and so that's the thing, so you know these 168s that you had to fill out like 1 million, I'm sure? That's sort of the same thing, as we were just having a job like meeting, and it's the importance of all the districts and IU sort of coming together and say, this is a problem for all of us, so we really need to take that upon ourselves to get these back quickly, turn them around, so we're not holding people hostage. That's, you know, really the same thing as being able to verify the service in TIMS, so that might be the reason, but don't delay, call Sandy Colelli or myself, and we'll work you through that.
I'm kind of going back a little bit, so I apologize.
Sure.
So you were saying when you have all your certifications and then you get your instructional two, they all come with you. But what if you had your instructional two and then you get another certification, is that automatically instructional?
Well, because all the instructional certs essentially stay in the same boat. Ed specialists are different. So yes, all your instructionals would be in the same bucket. But the ed specialist, though, which makes sense, because if you think that I have they now have educational specialist degrees for speech people. But then I also want to be a school psychologist. Well, because I'm working 3 years as a school psychologist does not make me a speech educator, or vice versa. So those are sort of so specialized and different, that's why they convert separately. But the instructional certs, they sort of feel they're all sort of instructional practice, that they're within the same boat, so they convert.
So if I got an actor, which is a specialist, I have to go convert that to instructional.
An ed specialist? Right, so if you hold an instructional and an ed specialist, your instructionals will go to level 2, your ed specialist will not, until you've worked under that cert for 3 years and convert that. Right. It's, you know, it's like education, we're not like linear, so.
To kind of piggyback, if you got both certs at the same time, then started working, they would both convert.
No, if you convert an instructional cert, your ed specialist does not convert.
But like, for example, I got my undergrad, K to 6, and then immediately after when I got my master's, I didn't start teaching. Then
So
I
your clock
started
didn't
teaching.
start, right.
Then I started teaching for the 3.5, under my 4th year. I worked under both of those certs for 3 years.
What are both certs? You mentioned K to 6.
And reading specialist.
Okay. The reading specialist is instructional. Yeah.
It's not ed specialist.
No, a reading
Not-
specialist,
okay.
right, which might be confusing as well, because ed specialist and a reading specialist, but a reading specialist cert is an instructional cert.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I thought you stumped me. Okay. Only Ken stumps me in this presentation.
So reading specialist after your instructional two is automatically.
Correct. Yes.
Specialist is like throwing you off.
The specialist is throwing you off, I got it.
So if your
certification, so going back to like what's required to go from level 1 to level 2, if your certification already requires the 24 posts, like if you needed those, like you need a master's to get a specific cert anyway, do you still have to complete those 24 hours?
No, because you did those.
Okay.
Right, you would just put them in the TIM system. You're like, are you guys panicking back there? No, and that's what you would put in the TIM system to verify service. Oh my God, Don's gonna kill me. Okay, okay, teacher evaluation. Great, educator effectiveness. I have about 35 seconds, which is, that's normal, that's fine. I can do this in 35 seconds. Act 82, educator effectiveness. Is there anyone totally new to educator effectiveness, being evaluated under it? Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, if you've never been evaluated within the last 2 years, this is the new process that comes in.
So the new system, the framework for teaching. So caveat, we are going to go into this much more in depth than I can do in now like 10 seconds. Because when you have your office level meetings, the schedule that Donna showed you earlier, you'll have an office level meeting in the fall, we have a January meeting. I guarantee you that office level and the January meeting will go much more in depth to this. I just wanted you to be aware of it, and I'm going to show you SharePoint really quick. These are the 4 domains: planning and prep, professional responsibility, the classroom environment, instruction. We call them the on-stage domains, the off-stage domains. This will all be very second nature to everyone. I'm sorry I don't have the time to go through it. So everyone new to the IU, regardless of level 1, level 2, regardless of tenure, is in a formal process when you come into the IU. So that would be, if you're tenured, 1 formal observation. If you are not tenured, 2 formal observations a year. I want to take you in. Who has been into SharePoint already? Okay, so you log in through MCIU webpage, you log into the intranet here, intranet also known as SharePoint, you go to Human Resources, I know it looks really pretty, and then you have your evaluations here. So if you go to Professional, you have all the information here. This is the information overview. We're in the process of updating all of this for 15-16, but there's still good information in here that you can look at while we're getting that up to date. So you will all be in formal observation. And the difference here is whether you're an instructional professional or a non-instructional professional. Your supervisor will be able to walk you through this. We can walk you through it, but the forms are a little bit different. Okay, so if we go in and surveying the room, I feel like we have split. We're split literally in everything. Like we can't focus any of this in. But you have your different forms here that you complete. The observation schedule, the packet of all the forms. These really are all in the process this week of being updated with, last year was our first year that we went through it. We all came together as a committee, we sat, we said what worked, what didn't work, what could we make more efficient, what is more helpful to the educator. And so I want to say we're meeting Wednesday to look through all of that and complete those changes. So I don't want to take you into these too much and show you something that might change, but this is where you locate all of that information. And then, so that is for instructional, non-instructional. I just want to show you really quick. These forms 1, 2, and 5. This might not make any sense to you right now, that's okay. So we have the different folders here regarding who, I guess I'm guilty. There you are, hi. So I was thinking of like my BCBAs and where you're going to go, or hearing, or that sort of thing. So you will go here, nurse, OT, PT is my psychologist, that's the guys, social workers, tax, that's sort of the big group at the bottom that works for a lot of people. This is where you would go in, so I see psychologists here. And you have your guiding questions, your Form 1, your Form 5.
Good evening. Good evening. My job is to take you through 2 of the forms that we worked on over the summer. The first one is the collaborative log. This is a log that you will be filling out, mentor and inductee will be filling out after each meeting. And we've talked about, would you do this after a phone call? Would you be filling this out after you've had a brief question that you wanted to share with your inductee or with your mentor? And no, not with a question. When you meet, this is a face-to-face meeting that you would have where you go through these questions. So we're going to start with the first one. What's working? And it's a great question to begin with. What's working? What's going well? What are you feeling really good about? It could be you're planning and prep, you're feeling that when you get in to work with your student, if you are an itinerant teacher and you get in to work with your student in an EI situation, you feel as though your prep is going very well and you want to talk about that with your mentor, that would be a great introduction here, what's working. Sometimes coming from what's working might even lead to a next step. You're feeling very good about your prep, preparing for working with your child, and then you might have some questions about materials. What kinds of materials and resources do I have? So a next step for that one might be for a mentor to introduce you to an itinerant room where we would have a supply of materials. Maybe the mentor would actually have some resources that they would share with you. Maybe you would put together a wish list of some other items, some teaching materials that you would like to have. So they could all be next steps. Next in the collaboration log is an area of practice for growth. And again, we're looking at the domain component and some evidence. And I'd like to just highlight for you at the bottom that we have the 4 domains listed. The D1, planning and prep, the D2, classroom environment, D3, instruction, and then domain 4, the professional responsibilities. Areas for practice and growth, you can begin with what challenges. What challenges are you having in your daily work? And if there's some challenges, let's say with the classroom environment, that often is an issue for some of our new staff members. So if you're a classroom teacher having some issues with classroom environment, you would want to talk with your mentor about it and then develop some next steps. Might be to talk to some others, might be to, if possible, look at an observation, and this would actually take us into the next form. There are some other options that you might have also in collaboration. We have a wonderful tax staff here. We have peer observation. We have professional development. We have opportunities to attend some different conferences. So we have a lot of steps that can actually be put into place for a concern around an area of practice for growth. As Mary Rita reminded me when we talked about this afternoon, the goal is the conversation, and that's where the learning takes place. So the conversation between the mentor and the inductee is really where that learning takes place. So it's the conversation and then the steps that you put together. The second form is the peer observation log, and this would certainly come out as a next step after you've completed that collaborative log. And again, we have domain specifics here. What's working? Talk about what you feel is really a positive, something you feel good about, something that's working well. For instance, if you're working in a high school setting and you've worked in an elementary setting, again, an itinerant teacher is often asked to do that. Our hearing support teachers, our vision support teachers are asked to really traverse the K through 12. So if you're in a different environment, you're feeling good about your practice, but you might be having some questions about scheduling and how does that work. So some next steps might be, for that one, would be to identify the problem, and this is where the observation can be very helpful. If there is a colleague of yours who works in a high school setting, you could then observe that colleague and how do they work through some of the difficulties or challenges with a high school schedule. So that would be one of the next steps. And that's where an observation would be helpful, where you could then go into that high school setting, observe someone. It doesn't have to be your mentor. It could be a peer who's working in a secondary program, and observe them and see how they are able to work through not just the scheduling, but looking at materials, looking at age-appropriate resources for students in that high school setting. Areas of practice and growth would certainly be looking at what might be a challenge there. We could look at making it work for you as far as professional responsibilities. You're reflecting on your teaching, and again, that could be where an observation would be very helpful. And it might be that you want to take a look at a classroom situation that your mentor is teaching, so that you could reflect on that teaching practice with your mentor. So it's another opportunity for you to have that reflection and that area of growth. Any questions that you might have on those two forms? The first one, the first one, the collaborative log, is completed every time you have a face-to-face meeting between a mentor and an inductee. And the number of times during the year are really up to you, how many times you would like to come together. We're thinking at least twice, at least fall and spring, and if there are more opportunities for that, that's fine too. And then the second one, that peer observation log, is twice a year. That would be in the fall, and again, over the spring months. Wrap up.
Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, we just want to make sure that if there are any unanswered questions or any clarification that you need, we take care of that before you go. Yes.
Some of us may have already had some, like a face-to-face meeting with our mentee. Do we go back and document that, or can we just start from here and move forward?
Absolutely. You just start from here, but know that every interaction you've had from the date of hire with your inductee that you're mentoring can go on your log, but you don't need to go back and recreate a record, other than just a mentor log. We're good. Thank you for asking that. Yes?
What does the December check-in look like?
For the mentors,
Yeah.
an email, something virtual from me, just for me to touch base, and you will not be expected to attend a meeting. Okay? Yes?
Yeah, we talked about turning in the log.
Yes.
Do we have to turn in those collaboration forms as well?
No, mentors only need to turn in their hours log. The collaboration log stays with you and the inductee. Okay?
Yes.
It's just a way for you to
Yes.
memorialize the time spent together. So for those of you that have been mentors before, we are moving forward in a different way. So if as a mentor you have any specific questions about what you should or shouldn't do, we tried to give you, the details as we went, but if you have any questions at all or are unsure, do I still do this or not, please just feel free to reach out. Okay? But right now we're going with the collaborative log between the pairs, the observation log, which documents the time that you've taken to go and see a peer, and then you're turning in your hours log.